I have a daughter who's 6. I am not biologically related to her at all. There is no blood relation between us. I was friends with her mother for most of my childhood. We were never involved romantically and were always just friends. She had her daughter at 23 with her 25-year-old husband. When my daughter was a newborn, about 3 months technically, both her mother and father were ended the life of. I won't go into too much detail for privacy reasons, but it was a workplace shooting. My friend and her husband had worked in the same building and were both ended the life of. Both my friend and her husband had grown up with less than ideal families and didn't have any siblings, so there wasn't any next of kin for their daughter to go to. However, because I was close with them, I was able to adopt her. Even though I had been iffy about the idea of kids, I didn't want their daughter to grow up in foster care or around people who didn't have a connection to her bio parents. So I stepped in. My parents and siblings know that my daughter is not my actual daughter, biologically speaking. My daughter, I'll call Lily for the post, also knows that she's adopted. I never really hid the fact that she was adopted. She knows her parents are dead and were ended the life of by a bad man. But I'm saving the details for when she's older. Lily does not look like me at all. She looks exactly like her mother and biological dad. Most people assume that I'm her bio dad and that she just took after her mom. I don't ever really correct this when and if people assume this because it just seems unnecessary. My brother has been with his fiance for about 2 years now. A few weeks ago, we were all meeting up at my parents' house, and my sister-in-law saw an old picture of me, my friend, and her husband. She pointed to my friend and asked who she was, and I explained that was Lily's mother. Sister-in-law got quiet and stood in front of the picture for a while. I didn't think much of it. To clarify, she knows my friend died, but I guess didn't know that she had been married or that Lily is not my bio daughter. I suppose she assumed my daughter was mine and my friend's biological daughter. My sister-in-law got a DNA test done on my daughter behind my back. She used my brother's DNA for the test, and when it came back that they weren't related, she knew that meant me and Lily weren't related. She came up to me with the results and waved them in my face, saying that I was taking care of a dead woman's affair baby. She said this to me in front of my daughter. I just stared at her for a while before bursting out laughing at this. I told her I knew Lily wasn't my biological daughter and that this thing called adoption exists. Her face went red and she stormed off. My brother is mad I embarrassed his fiance, but I said she embarrassed herself by DNA testing a kid that isn't hers and then parading the results up to me. What did she want me to do? What was her goal with this? Did she want me to break down and abandon my daughter? My brother said she thought she was doing the right thing and called me a jerk. I don't feel like the jerk, especially considering my sister-in-law was the one who stuck her nose where it doesn't belong. I'm asking for opinions. So was I the jerk? Now for a few important comments. When asked if the brother's fiance assumed I was married to the deceased friend, I said, I can see how she assumed that we were together. In the picture, I had my arm around her shoulders. This was before my friend was married to her husband. At the time that picture was taken, they were just friends. A commenter said, I think you're a hero. I'm proud of you. If anything ever happens to me, I know my daughter will be so loved and cared for and raised in a loving household. I hope somehow your friend and Lily's daddy are resting peacefully, knowing she's got a papa that loves her. I'm going back to cutting onions now. I responded, I appreciate that a lot. I'm doing my best to raise Lily with the values and beliefs her mother and bio dad had and wanted to raise her with, even if some of them differ a bit from my own. When asked if I knew what kind of DNA tests sister-in-law took for my daughter, I said, I believe they were doing one of those home DNA kits, though I don't know what company they did it through. Another commenter said, NTA, she wanted to stir some shoot-up. That's a hell of a lot of effort to help. Also, I'd be pissed about how she got Lily's DNA to do this. It didn't go the way she thought it would, so she got mad. Your brother is just trying to side with his soon-to-be wife. Now for the 2-day update. My brother thought I had been having an affair with Lily's mom and thought I was Lily's bio dad. He tricked sister-in-law into believing that I was in a relationship with Lily's mom and was Lily's bio-dad. Sister-in-law then saw the picture of Lily's mom and her husband and assumed Lily was an affair child between the two of them and was being led on to believe that I was Lily's bio-dad. My sister-in-law ended up coming to my house and apologizing, as well as telling me the full story. My brother put her up to the DNA test. When I first adopted Lily, my brother, for some reason, believed that Lily was my bio daughter. He thought that me and Lily's mom were together and just weren't telling anyone. He believes that when she got pregnant, Lily's mom told me that Lily was mine and that she was going to just say that it was her husband's. And I went along with it because I didn't really want kids. Sister-in-law was under the impression I believed I was Lily's bio dad. She saw the picture of Lily's mom and me, and after asking for clarification on who she was, assumed we were together in it, and then got suspicious when she saw that the other guy in the picture, Lily's actual bio dad, looked a lot like Lily. I also want to clarify, I didn't tell her that Lily's bio dad was in the picture because she had specifically pointed to Lily's mom, and I assumed she knew that Lily was adopted. I didn't know my brother had been telling her lies for nearly 2 years. She got the DNA test out of her own suspicions, and my brother helped her with it because he thought it would reveal that I was actually Lily's bio dad. He manipulated her into thinking that it would clear the air of suspicion, when really he was just trying to prove that I was really Lily's bio dad and lying about the reasons for adoption. Well, of course, the results proved I wasn't Lily's bio dad and that my brother was wrong. My brother felt too embarrassed to confess to his fiancée that he had lied about the circumstances, which is why sister-in-law confronted me with the results. My sister-in-law also apologized for showing me the results in front of my daughter. She told me that her mom had an affair and cheated on her father, got pregnant with another man's kid, and had let her father believe the kid was his. Her father was devastated by this when he found out, and she grew very resentful of women who do that to their spouses. She had wanted to sit me down and talk to me about it without my daughter, but when she saw me with my daughter, she got angry, thinking I was being led on to believe I was raising my daughter when I was actually raising another man's kid. And she ended up exploding and immediately waved the results in my face. My sister-in-law does feel very guilty, and she's angry at my brother for lying to her. I'm not angry at her for doing the test because she thought she was doing the right thing. I also forgave her for the way she told me about the results, because clearly affairs are a sensitive subject for her, and I can understand why she would have exploded like that. I'm pretty sure she plans to break up with my brother now, and I don't blame her. When I called and asked my brother about this, he admitted it. When I asked why he would think this, he said that he couldn't think of a reason why a man who had been against having kids at the time would willingly adopt a baby without having a blood connection to it. He told sister-in-law that I was Lily's bio dad and was aware of the fact. He took it a step further and said that me and Lily's mom were together at the time of Lily's conception. Both me and my parents are going low contact with my brother for a while now. I know I will forgive my brother eventually, but I can't do that right now. He believed I was low enough to have an affair with a married woman, get her pregnant, take no responsibility, allow her to pass off the kid as another man's, and then only take responsibility because her mom died. Now for a few important comments. When asked how Lily is handling all of this, and if she is mad at her uncle and his fiancé, OP said, she was confused and I had to explain to her what sister-in-law had said in terms she would understand. She was angry sister-in-law would think that low of her mom, and I had to explain that she had been lied to and didn't think that anymore. She's not mad at sister-in-law anymore, but doesn't want to ever talk to her uncle again. On fatherhood since adopting Lily, OP said, "Lol, yes, I can admit that I'm definitely a lot softer since becoming a father. Adopting my daughter made me have to finally be mature, something I wasn't in my 20s when I adopted her." Then a commenter said, "Both your brother and sister-in-law are getting off too lightly. He butted into your family and lied to his wife. And, sensitive issue or not, She still violated your daughter's privacy, then called her an affair child derisively in front of her. Another commenter added, when I asked why he would think this, he said that he couldn't think of a reason why a man who had been against having kids at the time would willingly adopt a baby without having a blood connection to it. Your brother really showing his whole butt here. Your brother was both a terrible sibling and partner. He riled up his fiance based on her trauma in order to enlist her to help in deceiving you. Awful. OP responded, I really want to stress this point. Took the words right out my mouth. I'm not mad at my sister-in-law because I know she was manipulated into doing this by my brother. I wish more people could understand that. Am I the idiot for calling off my engagement after my fiance's friends treated me like a servant and she called me toxic? I, 32 male, just recently proposed to my girlfriend of 2 years, Sharon F. 30, like a month and a half ago, and it feels like the second the ring got on her finger, her attitude and behavior took a total 180. The entire time we were dating, we seemed exceptionally compatible, and at least it seemed we shared common beliefs and morals. 7 weeks ago, I proposed and she said yes, and I felt like it was the happiest moment for the two of us. But not even a week later, it's like her attitude totally flipped. I thought I knew all her friends, but one day I came home and there were 6 women I've never seen before, and Sharon introduced me to them. I was curious as to why I was just now meeting them when I already met Sharon's 2 best friends, Michelle and Octavia, both not present, over a year and a half ago. Sharon said she wanted to make sure we were a sure thing before I met her inner circle. I found this strange, not to mention it was a weeknight and they were quickly draining my wine rack of wine. Sharon still had her own place, but she stayed with me so often she practically lives here. Still, I found it incredibly rude when they left, with 4 empty bottles of rosé in their wake. I tried to talk to Sharon about having uninvited guests on weeknights, and she dismissed my grievance very flippantly. More that she brushed me off. The following weeks, she went out with the girls several times, and when she brought the girls to my place, twice without notice, once with notice to appease me, her words. They all treated me like a butler, shaking their empty wine glasses at me for refills. After the 4th time, I made it clear that I will get a locked wine rack. Sharon just called me no fun after that. It gets worse. Sharon decided me and the girls got off on the wrong foot and said we should have dinner together at a nice restaurant. Well, I went, and it was not great. The 6 kept prodding me about my life, my house, my career, but deflected every question I asked. It got especially bad at night when they started talking about modern relationships and jealousy. And one of them brought up some key points about relationships that I thought Sharon and I were on the same page about, specifically what-ifs regarding polyamory and being friends with exes. To my shock, Sharon said we shouldn't be too hasty on such decisions, which was a total 180 to how she expressed herself on these things only a month prior, where she was vehemently against keeping ex-intimate partners in friend circles and was staunchly monogamous. The worst part was when the bill arrived, Sharon announced it should be together and slid me the check. I told her she can't be serious, and we got into a bit of an argument. I ended it by putting my amount down in cash and walked out, leaving them to figure out the rest of the bill. The next days after that, Sharon kept calling me toxic and fragile, but every time I even pushed at it, she would give an apology and promised she was just stressed at work. It's nuts. We haven't even planned the wedding yet. The worst part was this Monday, when at work, I got a Nest doorbell alert. Checked and saw Sharon and one of her 6 new friends arriving at my place, going in and exiting with my golf clubs. This set was a gift from my father, and it cost a pretty penny too, so Sharon lending it out without my permission got me pissed. I immediately called Sharon and told her and her friend to return the clubs. Sharon tried to gaslight me with, "But you promised to lend the clubs to her boyfriend, remember?" I told her the club's cost would move it into a serious crime, and her friend had an hour to return them, or the cops would be called. Sharon kept insisting she got my permission, and I told her to cut the crap. Well, not 45 minutes later, I got another notification of Sharon and her friend coming back with the clubs and going inside, leaving them. Sharon's friend flipping off the Nest doorbell on the way out. I got home and saw Sharon's friend literally just threw the clubs back on the living room floor. Sharon tried to talk to me about my toxicity again, and I told her again to cut the crap. I said if I knew this was how she was, I would have never proposed. That seemed to freak her out, and she again insisted that she was stressed from work, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her to return the ring and her key, and we would talk about our relationship this weekend. She cried and begged me not to cancel the engagement and insisted that it was just stress. I told her again, we will talk about it this weekend. She finally relented. I had my house rekeyed anyways after she left, just to be safe. Sharon has been texting me constant messages of love and apologies for getting swept up and insisted she was only wanting to show me off to her close friends. I don't know, I'm just not buying it. The same close friends have been sending me texts daily, calling me toxic and fragile again, saying they knew I wasn't man enough for Sharon or secure enough to share her with friends. A few of my friends that knew Sharon the entire 2 years we were dating were surprised and can't believe she turned Hyde this quick, and that there must be something missing or that I am leaving something out. They say I must have said something to trigger her friends to act like this, and I had to have been the AH somewhere along the process. I don't know. It's a lot to take from all directions right now. Now for some comments. When someone suggested that Sharon's friends were only there to serve a purpose and that Sharon was too stressed out from work to meet her real friends. I did message Michelle on Facebook last night. I asked her about the 6, and she told me that her, Octavia, and Sharon are cousins and grew up together. Michelle said that she didn't really care for the 6, but didn't say much else. Another commenter called out the behavior of Sharon and her friends. Again, they knew Sharon for 2 years, and throughout the entire time, Sharon didn't act at all like this. I'll give them some leeway for now. Then a top comment summarized the situation. 2 years and she didn't introduce you to these friends? She knows how terrible they are and how terrible she is with them. She put on quite a show to get the ring, and now that she thought she had you locked down, she can show her true colors. Unless you are leaving out something, you are definitely not the idiot. You are not toxic or fragile. You have standards. What she did at the restaurant and with the clubs is toxic. It seems like she wants to show them she has you wrapped around her finger and that you will allow her and them to do whatever they want. I wouldn't give her another chance to use you for what you can do or give to her. No one that loves you would treat you like this, friends or no friends present. Now for the 3-day update. Sharon's been gone now for an hour. Breakup is official. I have the ring back. I did talk to Michelle via Facebook, and Michelle said her and Octavia were cousins of Sharon. And Michelle also said she knew the 6 and didn't care for them. Michelle didn't say much more than that. I did meet Sharon's parents, and they both seemed to like me, and the topic of Michelle and Octavia never came up around them. None of our finances were intermingled yet, but it was planned for later this month, which won't happen. I invited 3 of our mutual friends, Casey, John, and Mike, to be here when Sharon got here. Sharon showed up and was surprised to see we had company. I said they were here for both of our sakes. Sharon wanted to phone 3 of the 6 to come over to even things out, and I refused, and I used the club theft as a reason. Sharon sat on the couch, very dramatically, and then asked if I really wanted to make this public. I outright asked why she changed so much after the engagement, and why she hid the existence of the 6. Sharon then went in again about how she insulates her inner circle until a partner is vetted. I called BS. I met her parents. What's more inner circle than your parents? Sharon tried to deflect, but I wouldn't have it. I pointed out how for the last month, her friends dropping by cost me nearly $500 in wine, which she, by the way, made no attempt to reimburse. I also pointed out her trying to make me pay an 8-person dinner bill without asking me first. She again said she wanted to show how great a guy I was and how she clearly misjudged me and was disappointed in my attitude. I then asked about the clubs. She tried gaslighting with, "You totally said it was okay, remember?" And I kept saying nonsense. Mike piped in. He knew the clubs were a gift from my dad, and I was highly protective of them. He too called BS, and that's when Sharon turned her attention to Mike and John, saying, "Isn't he getting forgetful lately? Don't you remember when he forgot that one date?" And neither was buying it. I finally said that forget postponing the wedding or canceling the engagement. The entire relationship is going to end if she isn't going to be straight with me. Sharon made a very long, exaggerated sigh. She took the ring off and dropped it on the coffee table. She got up to leave and said, "You're never going to find someone as good as me," and to send her stuff to her apartment. She left, and Casey, John, and Mike were totally stunned. All I could say was, "Believe me now? We ordered pizza and are waiting for it to arrive now." I am still utterly shocked and confused by Sharon's attitude. I'm sure the heartbreak will come next, but right now I'm just kind of numb. Now for a few important comments. You'll never find anyone like me. That's kind of the point. Am I the idiot for calling out my supervisor's toxic micromanagement before getting fired? I've been at my new job for just over a month and have very grave doubts about whether it's going to work out. I'm finding it impossible to make my supervisor Martha happy. Her criticism is frequent, harsh, and in my opinion, often very unreasonable. The incident that has me writing to you happened today, when she reprimanded me in writing for failing to answer an email in 4 minutes. To set the scene, earlier this week, Martha and my other boss, I support 2 teams, but it's an uneven split. Unfortunately, my primary boss is the awful one. Had a meeting with me in which Martha told me all the things I was doing wrong and what needed to change. I'm trying to understand where she's coming from, but I'm just not used to a work situation like this. She proudly describes herself as a micromanager. She doesn't appear to know the word has a negative connotation and is looking for constant, immediate responsiveness, over-communication, her words, and accountability. I understand she's the boss and it's her call, but it's a hard adjustment. I'm not used to being watched so closely. Every job I've had, the boss has been concerned with results, not with knowing exactly where I am every minute, hearing back from me instantly, etc. All week, I've worked so hard to keep her happy and show her that I took the conversation to heart. Then today, I received an email on which Martha was CC'd from a senior partner asking for contact info for one of our clients. I saw the email come in while I was working on a project for the other boss. I made the apparently grave error of not stopping instantly, but instead finished up the line in the Excel sheet I was working on, then opened the email and began gathering the requested info. Before I had finished, Martha replied to both of us, sending the partner the requested information, the wrong information, for the record, but I'll get to that later. I saw her email, which arrived in my inbox a whopping 4 minutes after the email from the partner, stopped working on my response since it was no longer necessary, and went back to the project I'd been working on. Then I get an email from Martha. "Jane, this would have been a great opportunity to build a relationship with the partner. Why didn't you dive in and assist?" 4 minutes, Allison. 4 minutes. A bathroom break can take 4 minutes. I just feel like she's determined to hate me. I tried so hard all week to do everything exactly the way she likes, and she still found something to criticize. If she wanted me to answer the email, why didn't she give me a grace period of, maybe 5 minutes before answering it herself? Also, as I said earlier, she gave him the wrong information. He asked for the email address, and she gave the physical address, which to me seems like she was so eager to answer the email so that she could blame me for not answering it, that she rushed and sent the wrong info. By the way, if I sent incorrect information to a partner, she would act like it was the end of the world. But it's no big deal when she does it. Also, for the record, I understand some things are very time sensitive. I still think 4 minutes is kind of a stretch for almost any situation, but I also want to make it clear, this was not an urgent request. It could have waited 5, maybe even, 10 minutes. I'm not asking whether my boss is being reasonable here. I'm very confident that she isn't. My question to you is, do you think I should start looking for a new job? I just feel like this is such an unreasonable criticism that there's no way I'm ever going to make this person happy. She either has no idea how to manage people or has developed an instantaneous hatred for me and will continue to find things to criticize no matter how hard I try. I've been so stressed out since I started this job, worrying about messing up, which, not surprisingly, is probably leading me to mess up more. Is this salvageable, or should I start looking for an escape plan? Now for the update. Your response was really helpful. Martha had already messed with my head so much that she really had me doubting myself. So much so that I honestly thought you might take her side and ask me, but why did it take you 4 whole minutes to answer the email? So for you and the commenters to reassure me that yes, she was being unreasonable was really helpful. As for an update, reader, she fired me. Yes, I took your advice and started looking for a new job. She fired me before I could find one. The 4-minute email happened about a month after I started, and I got fired just under the 3-month mark. The reason given was that I was making too many mistakes and that they couldn't trust me with my assignments. I'm curious how it's going with my replacement. If things like accidentally saving a draft to the wrong folder in your first month at a new job qualify as fireable offenses. I did mess up sometimes, more than I normally do, but I think it's because of how Martha treated me. She was so volatile that I didn't feel comfortable asking questions, and she also would just disappear fairly often. She can disappear for 3 hours. I'm in trouble for missing a phone call because I was using the restroom. So a lot of times I had to make my best guess. And yes, amazingly, my best guess was always wrong. She was always coming after me with artificially compressed deadlines. So I usually had to send her work without having the amount of time I'd prefer to proofread, double-check, etc. Sometimes I thought she was moving the goalposts. Often, she would say, "I told you to do X, not Y." And I'd think, though I'd never say it out loud, lest I face her wrath, "I don't think you did, actually." And sometimes it was 100% clear that she was just inventing reasons to berate me. See, e.g., 4-minute email. When I got the email that I wrote to you about, I knew deep down that she was just never going to let up. Clearly, she would find something to criticize whether I did something wrong or not, and in the end, probably fire me or bully me until I quit. That played out many times in the weeks before my firing. If I made a minor mistake, she lost her mind. If I didn't make a mistake, she would invent one. For example, she would email me to say things like, "The meeting has been over for 30 minutes. By this point, you should have emailed me to ask what our next steps are." Maybe, but see above, hesitancy to initiate contact with volatile boss who finds fault with everything I say or do. I absolutely couldn't win, and it was just a horrible, stressful, demoralizing experience. I did find another job that I'm much happier with, though the first few weeks were very tough as I tried to put the experience with Martha behind me. I was afraid to ask questions, thought I was about to be fired every time I made a mistake, etc. But as time went by and it became clear to me that I was now working with reasonable people, it got much better. While I didn't get out in time, I'm grateful for you and the commenters because, as I said, it helped me to keep some perspective in the face of a person doing her best to destroy my faith in my basic competency. I really wish this hadn't happened to me. And while I'm happy in my new job and it's a bump in both title and salary, I actually now have Martha's job title. Seriously, suck it, Martha. I would never say it happened for a reason or that I'm grateful for it in any way. The fact that someone could bully me like this, be 100% in the wrong, fire me, and get away with all of it is really hard to accept. But all I can do is look forward.